The street is empty. Pharmacy shelves stand like ruined teeth. You hear boots, one set then another, too close. Your money is a folded scrap in your pocket. What you carry in your head and on your hands just became the only currency that matters. That is the blunt truth behind the 5 trade skills that will make you a warlord in a barter economy. Not charisma, not stockpiles, but repeatable, teachable skills that produce value every day and can be exchanged for food, shelter, and influence. Money dies in that scene. Skills do not. They scale. They compound. They let you trade services for staples, swap trust for labor, and convert scarcity into leverage. In a collapsed market, the marketplace is human needs. Wound care, a functioning pump, a sharpened axe, a defended perimeter, or a steady bushel of grain. Those are the things people will queue for. The 5 trades here are those that buy you standing and keep it. Each block below defines the trade, explains why it becomes premium in barter settings, gives concrete barter examples, lays out an entry and training pathway, and shows how to monetize it sustainably in a fractured economy. You will get vignettes to ground the theory and short 5-day starter plans you can actually follow. First skill, close quarters combat and security training. Definition in one line: defensive tactics, team-based security, and biomechanics-informed training to protect people, assets, and supply routes. Why this is rare and valuable? Skilled teachers who can turn civilians into competent defenders are uncommon. Effective defense is more than muscle. It's leverage, positioning, systems, and psychology. In barter terms, a security trainer can swap a month of guarded supply convoys for a season's preserves, or trade training a village watch squad for a share in crops. Imagine a settlement with a melon patch that gets raided twice a month. Paying someone to design patrol patterns and train 10 volunteers could be the difference between famine and surplus. That trainer becomes a node. Protection for produce, advice for routes, and a deterrent that lowers theft. That lowered theft is itself economic gain for everyone who trades with you. How to start? Begin with simple drills that teach balance, leverage, and escape, not flashy violence. Practice movement patterns, hips and knees as levers, feet as base of support. Teach team formations, overlapping fields of awareness, checkpoints, and non-lethal control options. Package the service. Offer a 4-week basic security course to neighboring households in exchange for a month's supply of staples or a share of labor. Pricing is fluid. The point is repeatable exchange. A short 5-day starter module might look like: Day 1, stance and movement. Day 2, distance management and breakaways. Day 3, improvised barriers and sentinel rotation. Day 4, escort procedures and convoy basics. Day 5, teach-back session where trainees demonstrate skills and the trainer builds a maintenance schedule. Vignette. A ravine settlement hired a former instructor to teach night watch rotation and door reinforcement techniques. The village traded a quarter of that year's smoked meat for a 6-week course. Theft dropped. The villagers felt safe enough to plant an extra row of beans. They doubled their seed output the following season. The trainer did not become a tyrant. He became the community's insurance, paid weekly in produce and labor, and respected because he taught others to hold the line. Tools and entry kit: a sturdy pair of boots, a weighted practice staff or baton, a map, notebooks for patrol logs, and basic protective gear. Time investment: 3 months of regular practice to be competent enough to teach basics, ongoing work to build credibility. Monetization models: per course barter, 10 families trade staples for a training block. Subscription security: 1 person guards a route in exchange for a share of goods weekly. Training for service:
teach leaders, receive labor in return, and packaged consulting for route design. Always offer teach the teacher options. Multiplying instructors scales value and cements your indispensability. Early practical offer. If this is the set of skills you need, download the 5 skills starter checklist. Link in description. Second skill, tactical medicine and trauma care. One-line definition. The ability to control life-threatening bleeding, stabilize shock, manage wounds and infections, and triage in austere environments. Why it pays. Medical competence is one of the highest recurring premiums in any collapse. People will trade multiple months of rations for reliable wound care or a saved limb. Medical service buys loyalty. A person who tended your injured will work for you in gratitude and will trust your leadership. Scarcity is simple. Few know basic trauma care, and even fewer can keep people alive through infection-prone conditions. Concrete barter examples. Treating a compound fracture and managing convalescence could earn a family's seed stock for the next season. Basic wound and suture capability might be exchanged for weeks of labor or shelter. Create recurring value. A medic can offer an ongoing care contract for a community, bandage rotation, infection surveillance, vaccine preservation, turning episodic trades into subscriptions of staples or labor. How to begin. Focus on hemorrhage control, splinting, treating shock, and preventing infection. Learn from vetted courses, Stop the Bleed programs, wilderness first aid, and tactical combat casualty care curricula are good starting points. Build a compact kit. Tourniquets, chest seals, pressure dressings, SAM splint, basic antibiotics if accessible, wound clean supplies, and suture practice materials. Train with real scenarios, but always emphasize stabilization and rapid evacuation when possible. The medic's value grows when they can stabilize someone until a safer transfer is arranged. 5-day starter plan. Day 1, bleeding control and tourniquet application. Practice on simulated limbs. Day 2, splints and immobilization. Day 3, airway and breathing basics. Day 4, infection prevention, cleaning and dressing wounds. Day 5, casualty collection and basic triage scenarios, plus building a compact med kit list. Resource notes. Carry an up-to-date field manual and, when possible, study with an experienced practitioner. Practical constraints. Avoid advanced surgical interventions unless professionally trained. Focus on saving lives through stabilization, not attempting procedures that require sterile ORs. Vignette. In a riverside commune, a child fell and severely cut an artery on a scrap metal fence. The local medic applied a tourniquet and coordinated care for 3 days until the risk of infection was managed. The family traded a year's worth of smoked fish and signed a care contract, weekly health checks in exchange for 1 day of medical labor per week. The medic's value after that single emergency turned into a steady income stream of supplies and trust. Monetization models. One-off emergency fees in staples, subscription care contracts, apprenticeship, teach basic care to local volunteers for a share of produce, and preventive health packages, vaccination storage and distribution if vaccines are available. Always document care. Records increase trust and a medic's bargaining position. Third skill. Blacksmithing, tool-making, and metal fabrication. One-line definition: forging, welding, shaping, and repairing metal tools, hardware, and durable goods that keep settlement life functioning. Why this draws premium barter. Durable tools don't rot like canned food. They can be repaired, repurposed, and traded repeatedly. A well-made blade or a properly tempered plowshare performs labor for seasons. Blacksmiths convert raw scrap into utility. They turn junk into the currency of function. Barter examples. A forged axe head or a set of hinge plates could be traded for a month's grain or for labor to expand a workshop. A blacksmith who can fix a critical gear in a pump may receive a season's harvest in return. Blacksmithing multiplies value because each tool increases productivity across the whole community. How to start? You can begin with a small forge built from a barrel, a bellows, an anvil substitute, and basic hammers. Learn practical projects: nails, hinges, hoes, blades, and simple agricultural implements. Safety and metallurgy basics matter. Heat, quench, and tempering alter metal properties. Practice on scrap before accepting paid commissions.
Build repeatable projects that the community needs: fence staples, plow tines, blade regrinds, and basic repairs. 5-day starter plan. Day 1, forge safety and simple nails. Day 2, basic hammer and bend projects, hooks, brackets. Day 3, cutting and grinding. Day 4, sharpening and tempering basics. Day 5, finishing and delivering a small tool for barter. Tools and supplies: a small anvil, hammers of various heads, coal or charcoal hearth, tongs, a bench grinder, files, and a quenching container. Scavenge metals: old springs, rails, and engine parts are raw material. Vignette: a hamlet lost its mower gearbox to corrosion. A traveling blacksmith welded a patch and fabricated a missing pin. In exchange, he was paid with a half-ton of seed potatoes and offered room and board for the next planting season. He used a portion of the potatoes to trade for steel and now sells repaired plow tines each harvest. His work multiplied harvest yield across several households. Monetization models: repair for rotation, tools serviced for a share of produce, build for pay in kind, create goods to sell in the local market, teach apprentices, 1 paid day per week in labor or staples, and forge murals, producing small but high-demand goods like knives, axes, and fasteners that circulate as trade tokens. Teachability matters. If you can train 2 apprentices, you've converted a scarce skill into a scalable income stream. 4th skill: mechanical repair and improvisational engineering. One-line definition: diagnosing, repairing, and improvising mechanical systems, engines, pumps, generators, bikes, to restore mobility and power. Why this matters? Energy and motion are the backbone of any settlement. A working generator, a roadworthy vehicle, or a water pump keeps operations alive. Repair skills unlock mobility, enable irrigation, and sustain refrigeration, and mobility buys you options in barter. Barter examples: repairing a truck that can haul supplies for a season can be traded for a 2-month food supply. Maintaining a generator for a clinic could earn a medic's services or a farmer's produce shares. Services that restore or maintain power and transport are among the most durable barter goods because they enable others to produce and trade. How to begin? Learn diagnostics more than memorizing parts. The seasoned mechanic knows how to listen, observe, and improvise. Keep spares: belts, filters, spark plugs, hoses, and a basic tool set. Practice on small engines, lawn mowers, generators, and motorcycles. Learn to fabricate minor parts when originals fail. Using a blacksmith's outputs and improvisation, you can bridge the supply gap. 5-day starter plan. Day 1, basic engine anatomy and tools. Day 2, fuel systems and ignition troubleshooting. Day 3, pumps and seals. Day 4, electrical basics for generators and batteries. Day 5, improvisation labs, fabricating a missing bracket or patching a hose.
Scavenge training. Strip down old vehicles to learn each subsystem. Keep a parts inventory and log for reuse. Vignette. A village pump failed in late summer. The mechanic could not find the exact gasket. Using scavenged sheet rubber and a makeshift clamp, she fabricated a seal that lasted until the next rainy season. The community paid with a share of canned tomatoes and gave her 2 days of extra help during harvest. Because she could keep the pump running, the village harvested enough to trade with neighbors, and her reputation for keeping critical systems alive spread. Monetization models. Subscription maintenance contracts for pumps and generators, on-call repair trades for vehicles, pay in goods, trade for parts agreements, exchange labor for raw materials, and packaged skills training for operators. Teach a village to maintain its own generator for a fee in goods or labor. 5th skill: food production, preservation, and logistics. One-line definition: producing steady calories, preserving surplus, and organizing distribution so communities do not starve. Why it's foundational? Food is the primary currency people truly value. All other trades buy access to it. Whoever stabilizes food supply commands bargaining chips that are durable, shareable, and domestically valuable. A reliable food producer can trade year-round, not just in emergencies. Barter examples: preserved root crops for tool repair, seed for service agreements for mechanics, and meal shares in exchange for medical care. Crops can be portioned into trade bundles, jars of preserved fruit, sacks of grain, smoked meat that function as consistent currency. How to start? Small, reliable plots and resilient crops. Focus on techniques with high yield and low input: legumes, root vegetables, hardy greens, and small livestock like chickens. Learn preservation: canning, smoking, salting, drying, and basic cold storage strategies, root cellars. Logistics is equally important. Rotate stocks, label preserved foods, and build distribution schedules that smooth demand spikes. 5-day starter plan. Day 1, soil and quick start beds, hugelkultur beds or raised beds for fast results. Day 2, seed selection and planting schedules. Day 3, short-term preservation techniques, drying, smoking some fish or meat. Day 4, canning basics and sanitary storage. Day 5, small-scale distribution planning and seed-saving protocols. Tools and supplies: hand tools, water access, basic canning kit, smokehouse or box smoker, salt, sugar, and jars. Teach others: a food production lead who trains 5 families, spreads dependency, and builds alliances. Vignette: a cooperative garden produced a surplus of beans and dried apples. They traded jars of preserves with a mechanic for regular maintenance on irrigation pumps. The mechanic's ability to keep pumps moving increased garden yields the next season, a clear multiplier effect.
Cross-skill integration is where these 5 scales become exponential. A medic keeps the workforce alive, a blacksmith supplies tools, a mechanic keeps transport and pumps moving, a security trainer protects fields and distribution routes, and food producers create the staples everyone needs. Each skill raises the value of the others. A community where all 5 exist is a resilient node, with internal trade that rarely leaks into raids or collapse. You can convert skills into political leverage by embedding them into reciprocal contracts. You protect our granary, we lend you the generator. Teachability is the lever. When you train others, you spread indispensability while avoiding monopoly-based resentment. Scale by certifying basic courses where available: wilderness first aid, tactical medicine primers, blacksmith apprenticeships, community agriculture guides, and small engine repair handbooks. Field manuals, trade-specific texts, and trusted instructors are worth trading for. Build a kit list for each skill and gradually acquire components through barter, scavenging, and low-cost purchases. Next steps you can take right now to begin converting skill into barter value: inventory your current capabilities and tools. Choose one skill to focus on first and commit to a 90-day progression, weekly practice, a small project, and one teach-back session where you offer the result to a neighbor in exchange for something you need. Build 2 trade models for each skill, a one-time service exchange and a subscription. Document every transaction plainly. Records are your credibility when negotiating new trades. Scavenge and collect durable items: a quality multi-tool, basic medical kit components, an old grinder or forge hammer, a small gas-powered generator, and seed varieties suited to your climate. Time investment estimate: basic competence in one skill, 3 months. Practical, teachable competence, 6 to 12 months. That does not make you invincible, but it will reliably increase your barter value. Mini resources list:
Take certified basic courses where available: wilderness first aid, tactical medicine primers, blacksmith apprenticeships, community agriculture guides, and small engine repair handbooks. Field manuals, trade-specific texts, and trusted instructors are worth trading for. Build a kit list for each skill and gradually acquire components through barter, scavenging, and low-cost purchases.
A concise checklist to begin today. Choose the first skill you will master. Assemble a starter kit for that skill. Set a 5-day starter plan and stick to it. Find one person or household to trade a finished product or a class for goods. Document the trade and recruit or teach at least one other person to begin multiplying the skill. Repeat for the other 4 trades. That is how you go from scavenger to indispensable. Remember the ethical spine. Always explain the limits of your services, avoid promises you cannot keep, and build governance that prevents predation. In practice, the communities that survive and thrive after collapse are not those run by solitary tyrants, but those organized around indispensable services and reciprocal obligations. The warlord you become should be the one everyone would rather have than be under, the person who secures, sustains, and teaches. If you want deeper breakdowns of any one skill, full 5-week modules, tool lists, and sample barter contracts, subscribe for skill deep dives and downloadable guides. Be the person nobody can afford to lose. Be the one who turns scarcity into service and service into stability. That is the real power behind the 5 trade skills that will make you a warlord in a barter economy.